Hello everyone, welcome to an analysis of dance where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard Hot Dance charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. Another week, another really inconsistent batch of debuts, although these ones are actually really interesting compared to the norm. I mean, 7 debuts, a ton of weird things to talk about, some promising movements in the top 10 that show a lot of really interesting movements going forward. Honestly, this was a pretty interesting week, even if the quality of the debuts was really inconsistent as per expected, especially with the highest debut being a David Guetta song that we will absolutely get to. Yeah, it's not gonna be fun. But on the topic of David Guetta, our top 10 where I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexa at number 1 is being rotated out across the board, and really once anything with any sort of momentum debuts even in the top 20 of the Hot 100, this song's run at number 1 can finally be over, and that cannot come soon enough. I mean, right now, Bizarrap Music Sessions Volume 53 by Bizarrap and Shakira number 2 and River by Miley Cyrus at number 3 just don't have the competition to really fight against it anymore, as the former is relying entirely on streaming and the latter is relying mostly on radio with no other support in the other formats to really help them get elevated. They're both at serious risk of falling off. Alongside that, of course, Hold Me Closer by Elton John and Britney Spears at number 4 has no real chance to come back at this point, as it's relying on its very slowly falling radio and not much else at this rate. But what could really be an interesting case is Trustful by Pink at number 5, which is getting considerable amounts of momentum on airplay, and with streaming actually doing pretty well, this might have the chance to actually go a bit higher soon, which is pretty good. I'd like to see it happen. Sadly, this also comes with the complete collapse of 1035 by Tiesto featuring Tate McRae down to number 6, as both radio and streaming are really rotating this out. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that it was able to hold this much momentum, and yeah, it's on its way out naturally. Not really complaining there. But on the topic of things that should be gaining a little bit more, El Merengue by Marshmello Manuel Turizo is at number 7, where the streaming is absolutely huge, but it doesn't really have any radio yet, and that can only account for so much. Honestly, I don't see this going higher at this point, but it might have a potential to do so in the future, you never know. But now we have that big debut at number 8 that I unfortunately predicted, Baby Don't Hurt Me by David Guetta, Anne Marie and Coi Leray at number 8. And look, this has the streaming, it has an airplay boost, this is unfortunately going to stick around, but hey, I don't see this being as big as I'm Good Blue. We can pray for small things at least. What this did do was knock down the remaining songs in the top 10, with Miracle by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding down to number 9, but given the massive airplay and streaming that this already has, I can see this overtaking Baby Don't Hurt Me in the next few weeks, or at least I hope so at least. And finally, Metamorphosis by Interworld fell down to number 10, as it's really only relying on streaming that's starting to rotate out, and given the high amount of songs below it that could potentially overtake it, this might be gone soon. I'm not really complaining there. The song's had a really good run. I'm honestly surprised it stuck around this long. But on the topic of songs falling out the top 10, our big fall off was Miss You by Oliver Tree and Robin Scholes, which finally exited after only 26 weeks, although it will unfortunately make a pretty high spot on the year-end list. Hey, I'm not complaining that it's gone. Unfortunately, it took out some really good smaller songs like Dash Star by Knock 2 yet again, and To Stay by Plume, although that one I'm surprised stuck around as long as it did, so I shouldn't be surprised that it's exiting. Our fours though, man, these were a weird bunch. I mean, you had your debuts falling off like Call On Me by Baby Rexa only down to 20, Say by Kygo featuring Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson not really sticking around at 29, thank God the grave robbing attempt isn't working this time, and On by Armin van Buuren and Punctual featuring Alika at 48. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that one actually stuck around a second week, but I'm not complaining there. Alongside that, we had our continued underperforming singles like A&P and by Noted and Mayo right down to 34. Here We Go Again by Oliver Tree and David Guetta to 44, Blair by Henson at 49, and Back to You by Lost Frequencies featuring Ellie Duhay and Ex Ambassadors down to 50. Real shame that one didn't stick around, but honestly, it was higher than I expected. The one remaining loser that continues to alarm me is The Hard Way by PNAU and Khalid down to 37. Man, this song has just been all over the place its run. It's had some weird weeks of stability and then some utter collapses. Hopefully it actually remains stable. I'd like to see it become a hit for them. Thankfully, we actually saw some action go on in our jumps and comebacks for once, although mainly in the format as we had no comebacks at all. And these were weird. I mean, I shouldn't really be surprised that Crystals by Isolate.exe got a big bump up to 27. This song's been really consistent its run. This shouldn't be surprising at all. But can someone explain to me why Hands Up by Belly Human and Ketseiki actually jumped up to 14 off its debut? I mean, I respect the song being different, but why is it gaining any sort of momentum? It's incredibly dated and not good at all. Thankfully though, it's balanced out by Food for the Soul by Itzma, finally gaining some momentum up to 38. And look, I'm not complaining at all, this is sticking around. It's gotten better every single time I've heard it. I really like it. But moving on from that, we had 7 debuts this week. week, so let's start off with number 47, Dreamer by Alan Walker. I shouldn't be remotely surprised that Alan Walker got back together with No Copyright Sounds. I mean, that label was responsible for his biggest song to date in Faded, and given that he hasn't really had much success in recent years, why not try and be desperate and go back to the label that got you your biggest hits? Well, if this song is any indication of his nostalgic sound in 2023, man, I am underwhelmed. This is not remotely good. Now, I will say it's at least refreshing to hear Alan Walker go back towards his house sound that made him popular to begin with, and I will admit that the melodies here are really nice, but then you get to those drops and the kicks are literally the only thing that really carry the beat here. It's just not remotely satisfying, and given that Alan Walker used to make some really propulsive house songs, this just feels really underwhelming for him. For a song with such decent atmosphere and some nice melodies, this just feels like a really lazy payoff. Almost like he completely phoned it in and knew that his name plus the fact that he was collaborating with NCS would mean that he would get a hit again. And given that this is now his lowest charting song and will probably be gone next week, yeah, people are starting to really pick up on the baits, and this is not remotely good either. What a disappointment. Skip it. Number 46, Relax My Eyes by ANOTR and Abel Boulder. This one feels like it's been long overdue. So for context, ANOTR are a musical duo out of the Netherlands who have been building a lot of momentum off of their chill indie house music, with this particular song actually doing pretty well in Europe and even charting on the UK singles chart and climbing up as we speak. Interestingly, the artwork for this song is actually tied to another album of theirs that they released just recently, although the song actually didn't appear on the album, so it might have been a bonus track or some loose single that was meant to be released as part of the album. Honestly, I was surprised this crossed over so early, considering a lot of hits in the UK that are dance oriented take a long time to cross over. And yeah, honestly, I get it. This is really good. It's very different, and I definitely can appreciate that. For starters, this is some of the smoothest indie production that you'll hear chart on this chart, with some really nice textured percussion and some great guitar integration against a really pretty mix that has this really chill, relaxed vibe that really builds up as those violins show up on the bridge and sound terrific. It's much more of a loungy vibe, and it definitely does work in that context. You can really chill out to this. It's got a great sense of mood to it. It's a song that really coasts on some nice vibes all the way through, definitely helped by Abel Boulder's really unique vocals that really sound nice and balance out against the mix quite well, and give this song a lot of atmosphere and room to breathe where he sounds terrific. It's not really a song that needs much analysis, it's just a goddamn vibe all the way through. I'm really glad this is blowing up. This could be a really nice change of pace from all of the bombastic EDM that's charting right now, and yeah, it's a great song to boot. I definitely like this. Check it out if you're curious. Number 42, Substitution by Purple Disco Machine and Kungs.
Healing my heart's confusion. We're looking for a substitution, but there ain't no one replacing you.
This is Kungs' first charting song in the United States since 2017. Yeah, seriously. Even though he's got a song with over 200 million streams and never going home, he just has not been able to cross over at all since This Girl blew up for him in 2016. Kind of a shame because his music is really good, and This Girl in particular is one of my favorite hits of the 2010s easily. But hey, if Purple Disco Machine's insanely surprising longevity in the States means that he's able to cross over again, I'm definitely not complaining. I had my hopes for this given that I love Purple Disco Machine's production style, and Kungs has been really doing well with the funky elements in his production as of recently, and yeah, this is excellent. Honestly, this might be one of my favorite charting songs of recent memory. This is fucking phenomenal. I mean, of course the production sounds fantastic. Both Purple Disco Machine and Kungs really know how to nail this form of disco, with a fantastic bass line against some really heavy percussion and a great sense of space as those synths just float around the mix. I think what elevates this more for me are the vocals and that hook, which just sound fantastic and balance out this mix really well before building up into one of the most explosive and fun hooks that Purple Disco Machine has ever made. That is insanely catchy and very easy to dance to. This is the sort of disco song you rarely see cross over to the dance charts nowadays, and the fact that Purple Disco Machine has nailed the vibe for the third time out of all of his charting songs, yeah, this is fucking amazing, and given that it debuted a week after it should have impacted, I can only hope it actually sticks around. This is a fantastic song. Definitely check it out. It's great. Number 41, Reasons by Excision, Wooli and The Devil Wears Prada. Okay, seriously, while I didn't mind Titans, why are we giving Excision charting songs in 2023? I thought after that absolute trash fire of an album, Onyx, that people would move on and forget his boring, generic dubstep, but here we are, a song with Wooli and a Christian rock band called The Devil Wears Prada that goes for the exact same rock style mixed with light, heavy, light dubstep formula that you've seen so many times before. Of course, I wasn't really excited for this, and honestly, it's not bad, but for the same reasons as most other songs in this style, the heavy drop just absolutely ruins this for me. I mean, I really like The Devil Wears Prada's integrations here, as Mike Konanika really delivers on the vocals here. His shouting before the heavy drop is really potent and flows well out of the head melodic drops, and his melodic vocals sound actually pretty good. I think he's got a lot of pipes. He has the potential to do well on this sound in the future. And even the melodic sections on the production are really nice, especially with those synths on the melodic drops that sound quite nice. But the problem remains in the heavy drops, and okay, seriously, can Wooli change his style up a bit? It's really obvious he took over this spot, and yeah, the complete lack of melody on top of the extremely loud and heavy dubstep beat and some really generic screechy synths means that this is just not doing anything remotely interesting. I think at this point, Wooli's starting to really test my patience with these heavy drops, and even if I've liked a fair few songs of his in the past, this just isn't doing it for me. I mean, I will give it credit that this is better than I expected. It's a decent song, the melodic sections save it, but once again, the heavy drops drag it down from being really good or something that I can see myself coming back to. So yeah, not bad, but not really good either. Number 35, RITMADINHA DANÇANTE by DJ GUDOG. Okay, seriously, are we doing this again? For those of you who forgot, back in late 2021, there was a song that charted called Automotiva Extradimensional. I mean, I've used this song a fair few times in my reviews as a punching bag for some of the worst mixing and mastering in any dance hits that I've charted, but yeah, I haven't really had a chance to talk about it on its own, so let me talk about it here. It's fucking dreadful. Just awfully mixed with some awful production and mixing that sounds like it was made by a fucking toddler. Now, that's a song from a genre called Funk Mandalao, and given the rise of the Latin scene on the dance charts in the United States, it would only be a matter of time before one of these songs chart here, and what do you know, this song is exactly that. Now, there's a limit to how much I can get angry at songs like this. I've been explained by a few friends from Brazil that this particular song and the sound is not really that uncommon. More of a club staple, there's very clearly an audience for this, and also I get a lot more here than I do with other songs. Now, that's acknowledging that this song is not remotely good at all. The mixing is absolute garbage, as the percussion sounds way too loud and overpowers the mixing clips in a very awkward way, especially against those vocal samples that sound either obnoxious or completely buried. But I won't lie when I say that the Moomba elements here, especially in the beat, actually do hit pretty hard. I mean, the percussion is so aggressively loud that it does hit with some impact. Even if it's awfully mixed, I at least get the appeal of this. It's definitely not a boring song, I'll give it that. So yeah, it's not remotely good, just like Automotiva Extradimensional. The mixing absolutely kills this one for me, but I at least get the appeal of this a little bit more than that song. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but yeah, it's not good by any means. It's pretty damn bad, but you know, I've heard worse in this genre. Number 22, Quarter Body by Alesso featuring Dolla.
Follow me. Just caught a body, this might be the end of me. Just caught a body.
Okay, so given Alesso's really inconsistent run of singles in the past few years, I wasn't sure what to expect with this. I mean, I at least had some hopes from it, given that I've really liked Dolla a lot of the dance songs that have charted in recent years outside of Family, and hearing that this was going to go towards more of a deep house sound had me a little bit interested, and honestly, it's fine, but not really all that interesting. I think part of the problem is the fact that it's got a really slow plodding tempo with not much in the way of progression, as Dolla just sounds really uninterested here. It really doesn't add to the vibe much at all. I mean, I get the appeal of this, the atmosphere is pretty solid, and it's got a nice bass line, all things considered, and I get that the vibe's meant to be nice and relaxed and laid back, especially given the sexually charged lyrics and that one verse that he has, but the song just feels really underdeveloped and plotting for me. Honestly, not all that interesting, all things considered. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't really see myself coming back to it. It's pretty average, sorry. And finally, number 8, Baby Don't Hurt Me by David Guetta, Anne Marie, and Leray.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. What is love?
Okay, hey, enough with this. This was already getting mildly annoying when I'm Good Blue got popular, now it's just looking outright pathetic. But hey, I'm Good became David Guetta's biggest hit in a long time, so why not retread the formula with another washed up singer and a rapper who's actually doing pretty decent for herself. I don't mind what she's doing. Well, the end result is honestly a little bit better than I'm Good Blue, but not by much. This is still awful. Yes, the beat is better, the drops don't feel as overly compressed and overpowered by the bass, and at least have a decent atmosphere behind it, but then you have to also deal with Anne-Marie's really loud and obnoxious vocal mixing that is terrible, and she sounds really screechy, and the interpretation of Baby Don't Hurt Me by Hathaway just is not good at all. It just sounds so forced, and just like I'm Good Blue, the lyrics don't have any sort of substance at all to really back it up, and just feel like an attempt to build around the sample rather than try something new. The worst part of this song though might actually be Leray, who's going for the Migos triplet flow on his verse and just sounds really forced and terrible, especially when she tries to sing and it just sounds dreadful. I mean, Players at least had a groove and it felt natural alongside her singing. It was a song that could complement her strengths as an artist, but this just absolutely doesn't. It feels like she was just tacked on because she's a big name right now. Combine that with the short length that guarantees that this will be baited for TikTok users who don't have much attention span and already are aware of I'm Good Blue. Yeah, this is still awful. It may not be worse than I'm Good Blue, but that's also one of the worst charting songs in recent memory, so a very low bar. This is still fucking awful. Skip it. And yeah, easily the worst here. It's not unlistenable, but it's not remotely good at all. With RITMADINHA DANÇANTE by DJ GUDOG getting the dishonourable runner-up, I at least get the appeal of it, but it's still not remotely good, let's be real here. The best though handily saved this week, with Substitution by Purple Disco Machine and Kungs easily getting the best of the week, with Relax My Eyes by another and Abel Boulder as the honourable runner-up. Hopefully these are both able to stick around. They're very welcome changes of pace. Next week, I have absolutely no idea. There's no real big singles on the horizon, so we might get a quieter week. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's all for this episode of Analysis of Dance. See you next time.